What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Gordie Tamayo. For those of you that are jumping on, we are going to go face to face and head on with the number one challenge that most people face, the number one fear in the world. And no, it's not dying and it's not flying. Stay tuned. Let's get it. Hey everybody, thank you for joining us today. I got a phenomenal guest on deck with us that we are going to be introducing in just 2 seconds, 2 hot seconds right here. But thought it'd be really cool to get this particular conversation on deck because guess what? Over 75% of people on the planet, they struggle in this particular arena. And what are we talking about? Well, if you caught the title, then you guessed it. It's public speaking. And yes, most people, they have a hard time getting in front of a camera, getting on a microphone, and for very real reasons. We're going to briefly touch into it. I want to interview a guest that we got today who she's been hitting the public circuit on speaking, helping entrepreneurs build up their brand, jump up, get a little crazy with what they're doing, and really elevate their brand to the next level. What's up, Lucky? I see you, bro. Thank you so much for jumping on here as well. Yeah, see? And speaking of Lucky, he loves public speaking, but that's the thing we're going to talk about too. You just get nervous, right? Like everybody gets nervous when they get into public speaking. Even somebody that's been seasoned for a minute, it's not something that's easily overcome. But the cool thing is you can get better at it. And that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to talk about today, is that we can all get better in this particular arena because guess what? It's got some phenomenal benefits that come along with it. And so what I want to do today, I'm going to bring on my guest and just a quick introduction for her. Oh, kind of spilled the beans there a little bit on her. I didn't want to bring her up just yet. This is Gretchen McCants. I dub her as a serial entrepreneur, and she is known for being in the beauty industry, running a lash company, but so much more than that. She's the owner, founder of My Brand Lashes. She's also a co-partner in Catch Cup, which I'm not going to spill the beans on that one either just yet. I'm going to let her talk a little bit about it. But, ladies and gentlemen, if I could y'all just give me a warm welcome? Give her a warm welcome, Miss Gretchen McCants. Let's get it for her. She's like, what are you doing? What are you doing to me? Give me an applause, right? Give me an applause and all that. Hey, Gretchen, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing phenomenal. I'm doing great. Doing better that we got you on board here. Super stoked that you took a minute. And as you can see on her backdrop that she's got here, she's already displaying it, right? Perfect product placement, by the way. So good job on that one. Good job. But hey, as mentioned, this is going to be a message on public speaking in particular. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? This is only part one of part two on this particular subject because there's so much that we could talk about. And as I was like gathering some thoughts on what this was going to be about and how I was going to introduce our guest here, I was like, yo, there's just way too much stuff to cover in a brief short period of time. So I'm actually going to break it down a little bit further and give you 5 power tips for how to elevate your public speaking on the next segment. So more to come on that here. But today is all about our guest. I want to introduce Gretchen to you. I want her to speak with us and give you some insight on what exactly she does and how she's been able to conquer this particular monster on the planet that is such a formidable foe for so many people. So, Gretchen, I want to start off real quick by allowing you an opportunity to talk to everybody here about who it is that you are and what you do.
Hi. Okay, guys. So I am Gretchen McCants, as Gordie said. I am located here in Boise, Idaho. I started out in the beauty industry about 6 years ago, started doing eyelash extensions. It has just grown like crazy since then. I have 2 local salons here in the Treasure Valley, as well as I bought a company about 2 years ago that distributes lashes worldwide. So I am the head runner of that. And then also we just started a new company called Catch Cup, which is women's, can be teenagers, menstrual cups. And so we're really excited to get that. It's been really fun to start something new and kind of still within the beauty realm, but different. It's still helping women every day. And through these opportunities, I have been speaking a lot at conferences and traveling around the whole United States, kind of talking about all different subjects, but the grand scheme of things is beauty related.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Yeah, and she's totally a juggernaut, I would say, a dubber in this particular arena in helping businesses thrive on the side, but also in teaching them just how she's been able to do what she does, and she's great at it. I like to say that anybody gets around Gretchen will just be drawn to her because she's got that magnetic personality, and she almost makes it seem like it's been an everyday thing. But and I don't know if this is the case. I'm gonna kind of throw a curveball at you and ask you, like, because most people look at you and get around you and they're like, oh, she's the proverbial extrovert. Has that always been the case? Have you always been kind of drawn to the crowd and comfortable in front of a large crowd or on a stage?
So the first few times on a stage, no, I was not comfortable at all. And I remember getting off. I spoke in front of like 3,000 people about 2 years ago, and I got off and said I will never do that again. I've always been an extrovert, like one-on-one or like in a group. That's always like been like a thrill for me. But I used to take it as like, oh my gosh, like why do I keep like attracting all of these people? But then when I actually started learning myself and learning business, I realized that that was my superpower, and so I really got into it versus trying to get out of it.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
And I was just gonna say too, like, and then so I was so scared to public speak, like I was terrified, and then finally just came into it of like, why don't I just go and like be myself? Like, I'm really good one-to-one. I'm really good in a big group. Why don't I just get up there and like just talk to the crowd? And that really helped me so much. Yeah,
that's great. I like how you dubbed that you found your superpower and how it segued into this particular arena, and you were able to harness it by not running away from it. Because I think that's one of the initial things that people do when they witness there's a tangible fear that's in front of us, and we like to dub it fear. I won't get into it today. I believe it's something different, but we dub it as fear, and we tend to run away from it versus encountering it head on. And I've also heard it said that in a way like this, that whenever you've come to the toughest thing that you've ever had to do and you overcome it, all of a sudden a new ability is born. And I would like to think that, I'm going out on a limb here, but I'm saying when you first jumped into this arena where you're like, hey, this is pretty difficult for me to tackle. This is intimidating. This is scary. But then you keep pushing, keep going through it. And all of a sudden now you realize, wow, this is a superpower that I got. And it's not as scary as what it may seem. Would that be the case?
110. Definitely the case. And a funny story about the first time I talked. Like backstage, and they're micing me up and they're testing, and I can hear the person that's about to announce me. And this lady walks in, and I don't know, for those of you who know Jasmine Star, she's on Instagram. She walks in and she goes, "Oh, are you opening for me?" And I was like, "What?" Like, she's known as like one of the top speakers in the world, and here I was about to like talk before her, and so then the fear just took over. So yeah, so I just think that was just like a really funny, like, it added so much more onto it.
Yeah.
And then and so then now like I just got up the other day, and like I almost got nervous in the middle of it because I wasn't nervous getting up there, and then all of a sudden when I was in the middle of my speech, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm up here. Like it just hit me differently. Yeah.
Well, speaking of tactics and strategies, I got to bring this back up here for those of you that didn't catch it initially, but Christopher, call him Lucky, aka Lucky. He talks about he absolutely loves public speaking. For those of you that don't know, he's been in radio and entertainment for some time, and he says when he gets nervous, he just imagines everyone in their underwear. But he lives in Idaho, so obviously that's a problem for some people, right? But I think anybody that's finally gotten to this arena of public speaking, you learn some tactics, right? You learn some tips of the trade that kind of help you get through those moments. Is there anything in particular that you utilize either beforehand in preparation or on the fly in the moment when you feel those nerves bubbling up and you're like, oh, I feel that coming on, I need to get it together before I start stuttering? Like, is there anything that you've learned to develop over time when that happens?
Yeah, so before I get on, I say a prayer, and I just pray for all my anxiety to be taken away from it. When I get on, I like to make eye contact with a lot of the people in the crowd, so it just feels more personable, like one-on-one. Yeah. I definitely still struggle a little bit when the lights are blaring on me and I can't see people. I definitely like it more when I can see the people. And then I think midway through, when I'm starting to get nervous, I start to just, I literally pep talk to myself, like, okay, like, somebody's going to learn something from this. Because I think when we have knowledge, we figure everybody around us has that same knowledge. And when I speak, I'm like, well, that's common. Like, nobody wants to hear that. Like, I have no value to bring. And so I have to catch myself and be like, okay, you're going to create, out of these thousands of people, one person you're going to resonate with. So just wait. Like, that's going to be the person that you inspire. So I just really think, okay, like, you have knowledge. Like, let's share it. Like, it's almost selfish to keep it in. And so that really just, like, grounds me down. I make a lot of jokes about it. If I make a mistake, I call myself out, and people love it. You're real. You're a human. You're genuine. That's just who I am as a person too, if you know me. And so it brings almost that tension down and brings their attention too. I love bringing props on stage as well. It just creates more of a visual and not so much of me talking to them, but bringing them into the.
Nice. That's great. So you kind of already mentioned what I was going to ask you next, and that's besides the obvious of what some people would think, that once you get kind of in your lane in this arena, then all of a sudden there's a whole new window of opportunities that open up, financially specifically, and relationships and whatnot. But I want to ask you, like, besides those, I guess, obvious, if you would, what are some of the biggest benefits that you've seen by overcoming this particular fear and challenge and getting comfortable in this space and being able to operate and function in it?
I mean, I think that people just get to know you for actually who you are and for your company, so they can see the face behind the company. Nowadays, people want to buy from people. People don't want to buy from companies that actually show who you genuinely are. It's also just built my community of people around me so much, and it's opened up to a lot of questions. It's opened up to a lot of mentor calls that I've been able to mentor people through some issues. It just puts you more in that executive state, that executive arena to them, that they're like, okay, she gave me this much value. I know she can help me take the next step. So again, it's not just financially or personally, but it is like, I remember the first time that they're like, oh, okay, how much do you charge to speak? And I'm like, oh, I was just going to do it for like,
$1 billion. Like,
like, oh, yeah, I was going to just say to pay my plane ticket in my hotel, but yeah, I charge this much. And then they're like, okay, no problem. And you're like, oh, okay, I meant that for a half hour. No, just joking, but
yeah, exactly. I should have charged more.
Like financially, and then like confidently, like you start realizing that you do have more. It's also helped me show up way more on lives and on the stories, and to show my face behind my brand and my company. It's just been easier to build me into my company where I don't feel like I'm apart from it.
Yeah. No, that's great. You're hitting on a lot of nuggets, golden nuggets right there, because we're talking about a lot of things in the space of marketing, communication, where people have an affinity towards a face and a genuine brand. And for anybody that's operating with some type of product or service, their people want to know who's behind the scenes, right? Like, it's something that builds a connection to them. And so being able to get at least stronger in this space, right, is of definite benefit to you in multiple ways. And like you said, I think you learn a lot about yourself when you get through this space as well. Speaking of the executive space and how it kind of puts you in that echelon, right, with others perceived as executives, I can attest firsthand. I came out of corporate America after 12 years, and one of the things that I was charged with doing for the last stretch was coaching executives on how to speak in front of people and crowds and how to engage their audiences. And the common denominator, I'm not joking on this, probably 99.9% of the people that I was interacting with and working with, they struggled tremendously, and they were very fearful of this arena, of getting in front of people. And so they had the very same tendencies that many of us do, with being afraid of how somebody's going to perceive us, of what their interpretation is going to be of us, and what they're going to think if we know what we're talking about, etc. Like, there's all these things that we come up with. But what you mentioned earlier, the thing that I think we got to focus on that we overlook sometimes, it's very simple. And it's, you got a message, you got to communicate it to the people that are listening to the message, and that's it. Like, nobody's asking you to be, a superhero on set and be a dancing monkey and, do all the things to get everybody's attention. It's just get your message out, get it in front of people, move on with your day, and congratulations. And so we're keeping this brief, folks. I'm not going to be on here for half of forever because everybody's got a life, and I want to be able to follow up with part 2 on this, where we really deep dive into it, and I think it's going to bring you a ton of value. So stay tuned for some more info on what that's going to be like here very, very, very shortly. But I want to ask Gretchen one more question for you here, and that's for the entrepreneurs that are currently maybe listening to this and struggling in this arena. Like, your perception of why people struggle so much on camera, and I kind of give my own perception of it, but I want to ask you, like, why do you think so many people struggle with getting on their phone, going live on a camera, right, or getting on a mic and getting on a podcast and talking to people in person, etc.? Why do people struggle with it so much?
I think the big thing in society right now is we have access to everybody's life 24/7, and for the most part of people only post the good. So we have this perception of people's lives just being amazing butterflies every single time we see it. And I think what's really hard on people is, I mean, you can't look at a story now without filters. You can't look at a story now without some kind of alteration to their looks, to their voice, to the background, to anything. Like, I could look like I'm in the Bahamas right now if I wanted to in my background. And I feel like we have this perception, and then we're so scared to, or we almost use all these tools, and then we're so scared to just show up as ourselves too, because we're not good enough at this point. And I think that we really need to get out of that and be authentic. Kind of like, I loved what you just said. I think that was gold a minute ago. We all have the fears, no matter how high up you get. I say in business, the next step you hit, a new set of problems arise that you've never been up there, so you don't know what to do. It keeps going. And so I also just think with that too, like, I think people struggle so bad because we want people to like us as humans. We don't want enemies. We want to be liked. Whether, I read a thing the other day that said confidence is 90% of what people see from you. It's not your looks. It's not your appearance. It's not your personality. It's your confidence. And that's one thing that people don't know if it's real or not.
Yeah.
And so I think that we need to just start building each other up as a society around that, and to personally, like, just show up as yourself and authentically you. And not everyone's gonna like you, but at least the people who do, they're actually the people you want to like you. You don't want to be fake and get this whole group of people that aren't your ideal followers and your ideal actual like people that you want in your circle, who you'd want to be coached by you, who you'd want to be going to your events, you'd want to be going on retreats with you. You want your ideal people, so you want to attract genuinely who those people are going to be, and that's going to start with you. So I get on my story all the time, and I acknowledge people to get out of their comfort zone. I do challenges all the time. So even yesterday I got on and I went to an event, and I say, guys, my challenge for you this month is to go to an event that you get invited to that you don't know anybody, or go meet somebody and find out their story. And so I think we just need to do that in this public speaking arena. You need to just go do it, and then you need to figure out how you can better from yourself the next time. Like, how you can beat yourself next time. Nobody else in the arena, just you.
That's good. Yeah, no comparisons, huh? Shout out to Maya. She says, don't look at the views and just share your message. It's just as important as a speaker who has millions of views. Great content. Thank you, Maya. And 100.
I love that too. And I heard from one of my mentors. She said, or mute anybody who you're scared of seeing. Like, if you're scared, if you're on live and somebody pops up and you're like that's the person that you're scared is going to judge you or look at you in a certain way, just mute them so that you're just speaking to yourself or your friends.
Wow. Well, yeah, that's good. I mean, we can't, you can virtually, I don't know, we probably need some kind of thing that's built in where you can virtually backhand somebody if getting wilding out a little bit on us here. That's coming. In the world of VR, that stuff's coming here pretty soon, I'm sure. Well, hey, we got a lot of, excuse me, you've already given us a ton of insight for the entrepreneur that may be struggling in this arena, but I want to give you an opportunity to give kind of a final plug or word of encouragement for those individuals. And maybe it's not an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur, so I know you relate to entrepreneurs, but maybe it's that career person who's trying to advance in their career. And one of the things that would hinder them, that may hinder them, is the ability to conquer this arena and get better at speaking. And that could be speaking in front of a team of 5 people, right? That could be speaking in front of a whole team of 50 people, whatever it is. But whatever lane that they're operating in, whether it's in the corporate sector, whether it's in the private sector, whether it's in entrepreneurialism, like, what is one takeaway that you'd want to leave somebody with to say, hey, if this was the next step that you need to take, here's what I would take. You mentioned getting out of your comfort zone and getting around some other people that you don't know, never met before, and shaking that up a little bit. Any other final plug that you'd want to give somebody?
I would say to keep trying different things and study what you do that is good and what worked, and what doesn't work, don't look at it as a negative thing. Look into what you could do to switch that to where it's a success. I used to manage a bank and tons of employees before I was ever an entrepreneur, and people want real and authentic, but they also want a hardworking leader. So whether you're working a salary job, a 9-to-5, staying home with kids, anything like that, like, just be an example of who you'd want to be around every day. Yeah. I think that's so important in putting yourself in situations that you normally wouldn't, to then conquer the next thing.
Yeah.
My favorite advice for anybody who's like, I just don't ever know where to start on my to-do list. I say, do the thing you don't want to do first, and you'll feel more accomplished than you've ever felt. And so I think that would be my advice for them, is just do the one thing that you're putting off.
Yeah, right on. Thank you, Gretchen. That's great stuff. Hopefully you guys are soaking that stuff in, taking some notes, digital, physical, whatever it be. But I want to ask you one final question. Where can people find you at? If they're looking to find you, where would you want to send them to?
Instagram, mybrandlashes.com, Gretchen McCants, or Catch Cup.
Or Catch Cup. You got it. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, hey, I told you we're going to keep it brief. We're going to keep it simple. But I want to remind you as well, part 2, where we're going to be actually breaking this down. And speaking of confidence that Gretchen brought up, I'm going to give you the secret sauce to confidence. You may be asking, what's that? Well, it's a secret. But guess what? I'm going to share it with you for nothing. You're just going to be able to get it. So stay tuned. I hope you go to my channel, like and subscribe. Or if you're following me on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you're at right now, just click something there and keep in contact with me. We're going to keep tabs with you because we got something coming down the pipe you don't want to miss. I'm going to be giving it out to you right here just like this virtually, but I'm also going to be sending you something as well for those that choose to join us live. So without further ado, Gretchen, it's been wonderful having you. Thank you so much for joining us. And everybody else, have a blessed day.